All right. So, um, new year, right? Well, I bet a lot of you are thinking about boosting those savings in 2024. Well, we found a pretty cool article. It's called Five Strategies to Double Your Savings in 2024. Catchy, right? And we're going to do a deep dive into it today, but don't worry, this isn't going to be like one of those, give up your lattes kind of things. We're going to really dig into the WHY behind these strategies so you can actually, put them to work.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things about this article is it kind of flips the script on traditional budgeting advice, right? Like instead of obsessing over, the small everyday expenses, it says,
Hmm.
you know what? Let's tackle the big fish first.
Oh, I like that. So you're talking about housing, transportation, food, the
Yeah.
trifecta of expenses.
Yeah.
That's a pretty refreshing take.
Yeah, exactly. Even just like a small reduction in your rent or your car insurance, that could easily outweigh weeks of skipped coffees.
Right, totally. Like it
Yeah.
really is all about perspective. So, for those of you listening, I'd love for you to think about like which of those big three categories holds the most potential for savings in your own life.
Absolutely. And then once you've kind of, identified those areas, the article introduces this really cool concept. They call it reverse budgeting, which it's not really about deprivation. It's more about a strategic mindset shift.
Reverse budgeting. I like the sound of that already. It's like a financial hack.
It kind of is. So instead of saving whatever's left over at the end of the month, right, you decide on a savings goal up front. And then this is key. You automatically transfer that amount to your savings account, like the moment you get paid. So let's say you earn $4,500 a month and you want to save $500. Boom, that $500 goes straight into savings before anything else.
So you're basically like paying yourself first. You're treating your savings like a non-negotiable expense.
Exactly. And the psychological impact of that is huge. You're way less likely to miss the money. It never really feels like it was yours to spend in the first place.
And speaking of, making things easier, that kind of brings us to the next strategy, which is all about using technology to our advantage.
Hmm.
I am all for anything that makes saving, easier and, dare I say, maybe a little bit fun.
Yeah, and the beauty of automation is you can just set it and forget it. So you set up these recurring transfers from your checking account to your savings or investment accounts, and it just happens seamlessly in the background, which,
Mhm.
let's face it, it's way easier than manually transferring money every month.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely guilty of forgetting to do that sometimes. And I thought it was really clever. The article even suggests scheduling those transfers for like the day after payday.
Oh, that's a good one. It's like a sneaky little trick. And it actually taps into this whole field called behavioral finance, which is all about, you know, how our emotions and our biases influence our financial decisions. Like in this case, we're less likely to spend money that we don't physically see just sitting there in our checking account.
Right. Outside, out of mind.
Exact.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like we're kind of tricking ourselves into saving. But let's be real, sometimes those big savings goals can feel kind of daunting, right?
Totally. Like when you're looking at a 5 or 6 figure savings goal, it's
Yeah.
easy to get overwhelmed.
For sure. So the article has this strategy called the work backwards strategy. So say your goal is to double your annual savings from like 7,500 to $15,000. I mean, that seems like a lot, right?
That's a huge leap.
Right. But what if we break it down? Increasing your savings by $7,500 over a year, that's basically like $625 a month. Still sounds like a lot. Okay, what about $156 a week? See, suddenly it feels way more manageable.
Yeah, you're right. It's amazing how just changing the way you look at it can make a huge difference.
Totally. And there's actually like science behind this. The article mentions this study from Scientific American that found that people are more motivated to save when they set smaller goals. Like it just creates a sense of progress and momentum that keeps you going.
That makes a lot of sense. So we've talked about tackling the big expenses, automating our savings, breaking down those goals. Is there anything else in the article that really stood out to you?
One thing that I thought was really important was they really emphasize understanding your own spending habits. Like they
Mhm.
actually suggest, going through your bank statements, ideally like 3 months worth.
Oh, the dreaded bank statement review. I
Right.
mean, it can be a little scary, but I guess it's necessary if you want to really see where your money's going.
Yeah, it's like holding up a mirror to your financial habits, right?
Yeah.
And you might be surprised by what you see, like all those small recurring expenses that we tend to overlook. They can really add up over time.
Yeah, for sure. Like all those monthly subscriptions or those little impulse purchases that we don't even think about.
Exactly. And so once you have a clear picture of your spending, you can start making more conscious decisions, about where to cut back and redirect those funds towards your savings goals. Remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your finances.
Right. So we've talked about the tactical stuff like automating transfers, breaking down goals, analyzing spending. But it seems like the article is also getting at something deeper, right? A more psychological approach to money.
Oh, absolutely. This whole article is like steeped in behavioral psychology. It recognizes that a lot of our financial decisions aren't really based on logic. They're driven by emotions, habits, even like subconscious biases.
It's like that saying, we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like.
Exactly. And that's why these strategies are so effective. They're designed to work with our psychology, not against it. Like, remember that vault account we were talking about? By making it harder to access those savings, we're basically outsmarting our own impulsive tendencies. We're protecting our future selves.
It's like building a fortress around our savings goals. I love it.
And that kind of brings us back to the core message of this article. It's not about deprivation or penny pinching. It's about creating a life where saving is just a natural part of your routine.
Yeah, it's about finding a sustainable way to manage your money that aligns with your values and your goals without feeling like you're constantly restricted or stressed out.
Exactly. It's about building a solid foundation for financial security and achieving those dreams that might seem kind of out of reach right now.
So for our listeners out there who are
Well, there is one more strategy. It's a little bit of a wild card, though. The article calls it the enigmatic vault account. It's a really interesting concept, but it might not be for everyone.
okay, the enigmatic vault account, you've got my attention.
So the basic idea is you create a separate savings account. But here's the catch. You make it intentionally difficult to access. Like, think of it as a hidden treasure chest, tucked away somewhere you won't be tempted to touch it.
So it's all about removing temptation, creating that extra barrier between you and your savings. Tell me more.
Yeah, so like you could choose a bank that's not your main bank, maybe one that doesn't have a convenient app or a debit card. The key is to make it a bit of a hassle to get to those funds.
I like it. It's like we're setting up an obstacle course for our impulsive selves.
Exactly. And the rules are simple. This account is only for emergencies and big life goals. No spontaneous weekend getaways or, that new gadget you've been wanting.
It's like a safety net for our future selves to protect us from those moments of weakness.
Brilliant. Right. And by combining the strategy with all the other ones we've talked about, you're really setting yourself up for success.
Well, this has been an awesome deep dive. But before we wrap up, I want to reiterate that, these strategies aren't meant to be restrictive or scary. They're about empowering you to take control of your finances and create a life where saving is just a natural and rewarding habit.
Exactly. It's all about finding what works for you and adapting these strategies to fit your own life and your goals.
I think that's what's so great about this article. It's not like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. It gives you like a framework,
Yeah.
but you can tailor it to your own needs.
Yeah, definitely. It's more like a toolbox.
Hmm.
You can pick and choose the tools that work best for you.
So for someone listening who's like, okay, this all sounds great, but where do I even start? What would you say is like the first step they should take?
That's a good question. I would say pick one of those big three spending categories: housing, transportation, or food. And then commit to making like one significant change in that area.
Yeah, you keep coming back to those big wins. And I think that's so smart.
Yeah, because those are the things that are really going to move the needle. Like it could be negotiating a lower rent payment, or maybe looking into like carpooling or public transportation, or even just, cooking at home more often. Just one change can make a huge difference.
Totally. And it's
So,
like,
yeah.
once you get that ball rolling,
Yeah,
you start to build momentum.
exactly. It's amazing how those small wins can kind of snowball into something much bigger.
So we've talked about, the practical stuff, but I think there's another really important piece to all of this, and that's mindset. Like, it's not just about the mechanics of saving. It's about having a healthy relationship with money.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think this article does a really good job of kind of subtly shifting the focus from scarcity to abundance. It's not about feeling like you're depriving yourself. It's about making conscious choices that are aligned with your long-term goals.
I love that. It's about feeling empowered by your financial decisions, not restricted by them.
Exactly. And remember, building wealth is a journey, not a destination. There are going to be bumps in the road. But the key is to just stay focused, stay consistent, and never stop learning.
So true. And if you're looking for more, inspiration and guidance on that journey, definitely check out the full article, 5 Strategies to Double Your Savings in 2024. We've just scratched the surface today.
Yeah, it's a great read. Lots of actionable advice.
And hey, who knows? Maybe by this time next year, you'll be celebrating doubling your savings.
I hope so. Remember, every journey starts with a single step.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of saving. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep reaching for those financial goals.